Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sim Aujla, and I'm here with Bruno, and the pair of us will be interviewing David Pinchin today, who is the founder and chairman of Leadership Through Sport and Business. Without any further ado, David, you want to introduce yourself?
Well, hello, Bruno. Bruno first. Hello, Sim. Bruno seems to be very excited about this event, Sim, and listening carefully. I'm expecting a few questions from him. Anyway, what are you gonna ask me, Sim?
So just basically, David, tell us a bit about yourself before LTSB, before it all kicked off and started. What did you do with yourself? What were you doing in life, and what kind of got you to that route, basically? Yeah.
Okay, really good question. There was a lot of time before LTSB because I'm up there, and LTSB has been for the last 10 or 11 years, as you know. So there's a lot of information to cover, but I'm going to be very brief. I'm a Welsh born American. I was born in Newport in South Wales, and my parents had between them 22 siblings. Wow. So I had 44 aunts and uncles, which was quite confusing for a young lad, I can assure you. My dad was the youngest of 8 brothers, and he was the only one of the brothers that didn't actually go down the pits, or the mines, as we call them, the pits in Wales. But he went to night school actually instead, and he ironically studied what they call bookkeeping in those days, which is accounting, which is what you were supposed to study, Sim, when you went to LTSB. But my dad pushed me to get an education, and by the way, I really needed pushing. I had a few different jobs after I left college, which was the City of London College in London, and then got into banking, and then got into the options business in the early 80s, and then started broking through TFS in 1985, and then I sat on the nose of a rocket ship for a couple of decades as the derivatives market exploded, and I understand, Sim, of course you're part of it now. So yeah, it was the explosion in the derivatives market, me being in the right place at the right time. This is what enabled me to think about starting LTSB.
Perfect. Yeah, you need a bit of luck sometimes, you know.
I'm going to come to that later. There's no question. There's no question. Luck is critical. Yeah.
Anyway. So what basically got you to start LTSB? What was the main reasoning? You woke up one day and said, okay, I want to do this. And why did you decide to do LTSB instead of doing anything else to give back?
Well, that's another good question. Life can be serendipitous. You know, it's what comes at you. Life is what happens when you're doing something else, isn't that what they say? But of course, LTSB enabled me to start thinking about it, because I was fortunate to be in that business for quite a long time.
I think Bruno's had enough.
We bored Bruno to death. He's gone.
He's had enough.
I don't blame him. But anyway, I knew that young people, of course, were our future. And I was in the US at the time of 9/11, which had an awful but really huge effect upon everybody. And young people can be distracted in lots of ways. And one of the unusual ways of looking at 9/11 is that there were some young people that committed suicide that day, and they were radicalized and brainwashed. And you have to think to yourself that there are so many things that can distract young people. At the same time, I was talking. I had this coaching charitable organization called NIFTY, the National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And I used to spend every few weeks, I'd spend an hour with 6 young people, teaching them, or at least looking at their business plans and teaching them how to start a business plan. And I'd have 6 kids sitting around the table, and 2 of them had some interesting app ideas, and 2 of them wanted to do something like start a new perfume or build a new car, which was totally inappropriate, and 2 of them didn't have any plans at all. So these are young kids from underprivileged background around places like Stamford and Norwalk in Connecticut, And these kids were fantastic kids. And I knew an hour with me wasn't going to cut it, but I had enormous fun. It was a great challenge for me to talk to 6 young people at the same time and try to inspire all of them in some way or the other. So that was important, I think, in answering your question. I'm a huge sports fanatic. You know, I travel back and forth, London, New York all the time. Get to experience the sport on the 2 planets. I noticed that there's a certain Manchester United shirt you're wearing. Maybe
I'm just hoping someone at Manchester United sees this and sees the podcast. He can become one of the partners for the course.
You'll get some royalties out of this, Sim.
No, I wish.
And why not? And why not? Let's ask Bruno later about that. Anyway, so I love sport, and there's 2 separate lots of sports either side of the Atlantic. I knew I was going to escape from the city during the Aughties, and I discovered through talking and experimentation that there's this neglected niche of young people that schools don't get ready for their career, and you know, there was a need to help these young people. They didn't have any social capital. They didn't know what they didn't know, and so we had a couple of pilot projects. One up in Liverpool with Everton, and one in North London with Spurs. And in that first year, a light went off, and I saw the kind of impact that this kind of attention, you know, which is finding these young people, putting them through a boot camp, giving them skills for business skills, and then getting them a place in a really good job, a career job. And I saw what happened when they came out the other side. They were changed people, and a light went off, and I knew I had to keep going. There, of course, early on, I met Caroline, and she is the energy behind this whole thing. Her dedication and her intellect and energy has caused us to. We're about to transform the 1,000th life. You know, here nearly 10 years on, we've got finance directors, chief accountants. A few brokers came out of it in your years. I don't know quite what. It's
amazing when you think about it that I was in the 2nd cohort.
You were.
And now 10 years on, there's been 1,000 alumni come through. That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, actually, what you guys have done. But
it is, and we're very proud, Caroline and I, of what's happened here. And of course, all the other people. You know, we've got 22 people working for us now, and a new CEO in Paul Evans. I say new. He joined us last April, so he's not so new anymore. Doing a great job. So yes, and then of course we have these young ladies that went to jobs in TV.
Wow.
So there we are.
Do you think any of these alumni could do more for us for the course for LTSB? What do you expect from them?
Well, it's a good question. We haven't actually expected too much so far, but with, you know, all of these now relatively senior people, we can be, I think, optimistic. You know, we stay in touch. You know, we do these reunions. You always show up at these reunions, and we play ping pong and eat pizza and stuff, and that is something that I think we should continue to do. And we've got people in the city like you. Maybe you'd like to come back one day and be a guest speaker for us to talk about what you're doing. And maybe one day, you know, it'd be nice if our alumni became contributors to the charity and we had a fund like Harvard Business School. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Billion. Maybe we get you to come back and manage that, Sim.
I don't know about that, but
or maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, let me turn the tables here a second on you, Mr. Aujla, and say what are you up to now? So talk about what you do, and
it's been quite a journey sometimes. Sometimes it's surreal, because at the moment I'm currently running an option on a div desk. So it's a desk that specializes in niche options that don't trade as much, so they're liquid. And it all started with LTSB and how much LTSB made me believe. Just like Manchester United gives me hope, so did LTSB, you know. Being a young 18, 19-year-old coming into the city of London and not really understanding, like you said, the social dynamics that are involved, and where I was from, it wasn't something that I was taught and trained. And having LTSB helped me basically each step of the way. Being there for me gave me a lot of self-belief, made me think that I could do it. And then it's been an 8-year journey in broking, and now, like I said, it's surreal sometimes. And I look at myself running a desk of a few people, and people coming to me, and me being the manager, and me giving the same tips and advice you gave to me a long time ago. Well, not so long actually. That's just 8 years isn't that long, but and just honestly, it's an amazing experience, and I'm actually lost for words for a second because I thought it'd be like thinking about it. I could never be where I am without LTSB. There's no doubt about it. There's zero doubt. Like I like to believe I'm quite good at what I do and everything, but at the end of the day, you guys opened the door, and I'm ever so grateful. And like you said, with like Amy and Sophie, who are now in the television industry and doing quite well, I'm so happy to hear that. It's just amazing that all of these opportunities came about with LTSB. And it's just up and away, like you said. Like the reason I ask you, what do you need more from LTSB, is I want to give back as much as I can, and be involved in the course as much as I can. And it's just absolutely amazing, to be honest. And it's just great to sit and interview you, David, firstly. But anyway.
Well, listen, I really thank you for that. But talk about what ambitions you have. You have some charitable ambitions yourself, I think, don't you?
Yeah, like you realize that in this world, it's all about everyone helping each other out, and even if it's something small, it goes a long way with some people. So what Arian Financial, where I work, what we've managed to do, we did a one-day charity day where all the proceeds of what we make as brokers, everyone in the firm participated, went to oxygen tanks in India. And as you know, it wasn't as well, COVID hit us all bad, but in some countries it's a bit worse than others. And I thought to myself that, and maybe these thoughts came from being in LTSB, and I thought that the team and us, we should all give back more at Arian, and everyone was really on board to do it, and it was really successful. We raised a lot of money for charity on that day. It was around $140,000, and every penny went to oxygen tanks in India. And also thinking outside the box. So something else I was taught from LTSB is there's a lot of money in this social media and like gaming and streaming and everything. So me and my friends are pretty good at Call of Duty, which is like a battle royale game. And we're looking to open up a stream for charity in the next few months. Everything we make from the stream will be given to charity, everything from the penny to the pounds, open up homeless shelters, anything we can do, we're going to try and just give it a go, because if you don't try, you never know if you can succeed. Another thing I was taught from LTSB, so that's where I am with everything. And hopefully we can all mix and match all our ideas together and be part of LTSB again. So it's that's where I am with everything. Yeah,
that's fantastic, Sim. I mean, 140 grand. That's quite a lot of money to because you haven't been going for 30 years. Your organization.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been going for several years. I know you've been successful. At least I hear you've been successful, and that's very impressive. Well, congratulations to you, mate.
Thank you, David. We wouldn't have been here without you, mate, and without everyone else at LTSB.
And the team. And the team.
Caroline, everyone. I've got so much love and
Absolutely.
respect for everyone.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
No, we're very proud of you. So what other questions do you have for me? Let's not take up too much time for people listening to this.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, what I would ask myself, what I would want to know from you is, what advice would you give your younger self? What things would you do different?
Holy moly. It's a bit of an old chestnut, that one, and difficult to answer, like many of your questions. I think if I'd work harder sooner than I did. It took me a while to get going. I'd play rugby sooner than I did. I was in a Welsh high school, grammar school that played a lot of rugby, but I was having too much fun doing other things, and I should have played rugby more, because when I went to London to college, I started playing rugby, and I absolutely loved it. And then I got injured and I stopped, which is another thing I should have done. I should have got injured, got better, and got back to it. But I was also doing, starting my career, and I wasn't that good, but I just loved it. It was the fittest I've been in my entire life, and I would be fitter sooner and longer than I was. I think I would say, what else would I say to my younger self? I would do, I would say to other younger selves that you kind of do what I did, which is to try different things in your 20s. Have different tasks and jobs to do, and wait till you find something that really seems to click. And as you know, that was me, banking and options and broking and all that kind of stuff. And I knew that was in the right place then. So that, that's what I'd say to my younger self, there's several things you should do a lot better, but one or two things that you kind of stumbled onto doing right. That would be my answer to that rather difficult question.
Noted and taken on board.
Yeah. So listen, one more question for you, Sim, before we let these people go about their lives instead of listening to you and me rabbit on. And Bruno, before they do a Bruno on us.
Yeah, exactly. He's gone. He's disappeared.
So, do you have one last question?
What does leadership mean for you, David?
That's another chestnut, but I like it. And I have a pretty simple answer initially, and it's about hard work, and thinking that in a podcast by Leadership Through Sport and Business, you might ask me this question. I looked at one of my favorite quotes, and it's by Longfellow, and I only stumbled across this recently, actually, but let me read it to you. It'll take me 10 seconds, and I'll read it to you, and it's this. The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night. In other words, whilst a lot of people were sleeping, a lot of people were working their butts off, and it's absolutely critical. I mean, you gathering information is another thing. So, as a broker, the best traders that I ever bumped into would drive us mad with their questions, and then go onto the other line and talk to their other brokers and drive them mad with questions. And then they'd only pull the trigger, hopefully with us. They'd only pull the trigger when they sucked all the information out of the system. And I think it's a classic line that, the more information you got, the better decision you're going to make. And it is about hard work, obviously, because it takes a lot of effort to do what Mr. Longfellow is talking about. I'm a big fan of the Calvin Coolidge quote, persistence alone is omnipotent, which is another great one. And the one that Churchill borrowed from Shakespeare, you have some people have it thrust upon them, the leadership chance, but you've got to pull the trigger. You've got to get onto it, and it's not just about hard work. You've got to really like people. I think you've got to be kind towards people. You've got to give them time. You've got to listen, and you've got to follow up what you say you're going to do to them. And I think that is of critical importance of how you manage people, because if you're going to run a business, you're going to be a leader, you're going to have people you've got to lead, and they've got to want to follow. And so, you have to have that. You can't fake that. You have to have it, I think, to be a good leader. These days, I also think that to be a good leader, you've got to have a sense of purpose. Making money is very, very important, critically important, but you've got to have a parallel interest in what is now known as ESG, the environment, the social, the governance. You've got to find a way of putting the ladder down, keeping it down. You've got to let people be their authentic selves when they come to work, whatever their gender, whatever their racial ethnicities. You've got to keep your door open. I think that today leadership has to have another element to it, which is about purpose. And I think in order to lead properly and to be successful these days, and going forward, it'll be even more important. I think that social mobility, this kind of social capital the lack of social capital that got me to start LTSB 10 years ago, has now become a part of everybody's mission statement. And I think it's rightly so.
Amazing, David. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir.